Just never showed in here. So as long as they're looking here. Yeah.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I apologize for giving me a few more minutes to get things together. Today is Thursday, December 19th, 2024. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to session. And this is the Santa Fe Regional Emergency Communications Center Board of Directors meeting, and it's approximately 9:06 a.m. We'll go ahead and start with opening business. Can I get a roll call, please?
Sheriff Mendoza,
Here.
Chief Jimenez,
Here.
Chief Joy,
Here.
Chief Moya,
Here.
online. Thank you. Chief Black.
Here.
Manager Randall,
Here.
Manager Schaefer,
Here.
Member Wheeler. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. With that, we will go ahead and move for approval of the agenda. If anybody needs a minute or two to review the agenda, I know they were handed out earlier, but if not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
We'll make a motion to approve, Sheriff.
One second.
We have a motion and a second. Everybody in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and approve today's agenda. Item number 2, approval of meeting minutes. Item A, request approval of the October 2nd, 2024 RECC Board of Directors meeting minutes. If anyone needs a minute to review those. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve these minutes.
Make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Do I have a motion
Second.
and a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that request for approval has passed. We will move on to item number 3, public comment. Director, do we have
Yes.
members for public comments?
From Globe Life Insurance, we're gonna talk, and then Sheriff, I don't know if you had a time limit on the discussion.
Yeah, we probably should put a time limit as we do with everyone else. We'll go ahead and give you, we usually get 2 minutes, but we'll give you 4 minutes. How's that? Is there anyone else needed for public comment, or just one person?
No, just Globe Life.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Lorraine Chavez and I'm with Globe Life. And the reason that I'm here today is we offer to the state of New Mexico and participating public bodies a life insurance plan that's guaranteed issue and paid up at age 65. The reason that this is so unique is because a lot of employees don't realize that they do have great insurance while they're employed. But when they leave, they lose that insurance. It does not go with them. It's affordable. Premiums remain fixed and accumulate cash. There's 2 different types of products that are sold. There is a term that pays up at age 65 and there is a whole life that pays up at 65. So really it's very nice because it's all based on age. The older we get, the more expensive it is, but it locks in the premium and it builds cash and it is portable. So we would like the opportunity to be able to come in and offer this to your employees and whatever we need to do to get that accomplished. The company, Globe Life, is an A+ rated company. And I've been in the business, I'm gonna give my age, like 32 years. And I've worked in many of these departments before and great products. So if you have any questions, let me know. I do have some brochures and I have business cards. So those that want to pick them up, they can. And then that would be the way to get back with me, is calling me or the Roger.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you very much. And here's some cards. And it's real simple. At the reading. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so nervous speaking in front of people. I've been doing this 32 years. I'm like.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Is there anybody else with public comment online? Certainly not here. No?
Do we just walk out this way?
Yes.
Oh. Thank you. Bye, nice meeting you.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Um,
Found me in New York.
okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 4, information and discussion items. And, item A, discussion of proposed bi-monthly meeting schedule. Director?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So I know we discussed in the last board meeting, the potential for subcommittees and then potentially going back to quarterly meetings if we do have the subcommittees. So here's 2 options. The first option is the every other month, the 2-month schedule, where the meetings would last from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. So they're 1 hour long for a total of 8 hours bi-monthly meetings. And there's 1 additional meeting for the budget cycle there in between February and April, so much meeting there. The proposed 3-month or quarterly schedule is below that, and it's a bit longer. It's 9 a.m. to 10:45, still total of 8 hours, total meeting hours, and time added, an additional time added for the budget cycle meetings. So those are the 2 options I proposed today.
Have any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would be in support of the first option, which is more regular meetings, hopefully keeping them relatively short. We can always cancel them if there's no business that's necessary, but I think having them scheduled would be useful to the board as to make sure that we're available and invested in supporting our joint RECC.
Thank you, Madam. Anybody else? And I guess my question is there, I'm not sure if it's in the JPA or how we manage the office, what is required? And is there anything that needs to be done to amend it, or is this something that we have the flexibility to make a meeting schedule?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The JPA requires that the board meet at least 4 times a year, just quarterly. So as long as the board is complying with that requirement from the open meetings resolution that the board passed, that's what that requirement is from, then the board has discretion to set the schedule however it deems fair.
Thank you. And I'm not sure that this is an action item, or maybe we would need to put it as an action item for the next meeting, so we could actually vote and approve whatever the board desires in reference to the schedule. So this will give some of us a little bit more time to look at the proposals and then come back and we'll set an action item for the next.
That's fine, Mr. Chair.
Is there any other discussion with that? Pretty okay? Okay. Move on to number 5, action items. Discussion concerning creation of committees to help board discharge its duties. Director?
Thank you. Yeah, technology subcommittee also. Okay, so we'll start with the technology subcommittee that was discussed in the last meeting. I'd just like to say that there's basically endless options for how we want to discharge the subcommittees and assign people to them and stuff like that. So these are 2 options that are listed here, but I might discuss some verbally as well. So again, we want a subcommittee that's going to get together to meet regularly, and the key responsibilities of them will be to review current and future technologies options, regularly assess current technologies to identify areas where improvements can be made, guide and support technology projects, ensuring that they're on schedule and within budget, review implementation requests for any new technology that connects with existing RECC technology or requires a bridge to connect with RECC data, and also identify future technological needs and budget implementations. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold, it's hard for me to talk. So one thing that I brought up in here was a policy perhaps that technological purchases that would have an impact or connection with existing or future RECC would be reviewed by this technology subcommittee prior to going before the RECC Board of Directors. They would proactively review and assess any proposed technology that aims to connect with RECC systems, just to vet it and ensure that it's something that's going to work out and not crash everything and work properly. So for the subcommittee options, the composition for option one would be Deputy Director Frankie Gonzalez, Santa Fe County Data Analyst Manager Charles Connor, Santa Fe County Public Safety IT Supervisor Jason Dixon, City of Santa Fe Staff Representative, a law enforcement representative from the county, city, or town, fire department representative from city or county, and 2 RECC board members. The benefits is that the committee would include a diverse group of subject matter experts and end users, ensuring both technical expertise and operational insights for effective decision-making and implementation. The involvement of the RECC board members promotes streamlined communication, ensuring that the board remains well informed of technological advancements and future budgetary considerations. Some considerations to this option. Active participation will require dedicated time and focus to ensure the committee's success in its objectives. And it will be a standing committee with regular meetings, which will be held at least every 2 months, requiring long-term member commitment. And the frequency is unknown at that time. That would, I believe, would be up to the board to decide how frequently we meet. Option 2, for a broader representation, it's a RECC leadership staff member. It could be anybody within RECC in a leadership position, a city representative, a county representative, a town of Edgewood representative, 1 RECC member, and a county technology staff member, IT staff member. So the benefits to this option, it includes representatives from the city, county, and town, provides a broader perspective on RECC's operations and technologies, fosters collaboration and knowledge sharing, and can improve the collective capacity and understanding of RECC systems across jurisdictions. It also encourages a stronger interagency collaboration and communication, fostering a sense of shared responsibility for the success of the RECC and its initiatives, and ensuring the technology solutions align with the needs of all represented entities. And some things to consider on this option. The success of the committee depends on the availability and commitment of its members to attend meetings and contribute effectively. And the scheduling conflicts and competing priorities across multiple entities may pose challenges to regular participation. Frequency would be regular meetings every 2 months to ensure consistent progress on committee objectives. So those are the 2 options in writing. I wanted to talk about potential for a third option, where we have an Edgewood technology representative on this committee, reducing the number of board members to just 1 board member. And the board member would be a non-end user, like as the city or county manager, to ensure diversity and that the information on technology is being spread appropriately. So that's the technology. That's the proposal.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So, thank you, Director, for bringing this forward. I really appreciate it. We are now beefing up our IT department to 2. So, I would just ask that maybe on all of those committees, maybe we can substitute the law enforcement staff with one of the technology or IT members. And the only reason I say that is because I want to build the bridge between Santa Fe County and the town of Edgewood IT department. They probably have the wherewithal to do better building that gap, but I don't know what the issues are concerning, some of our issues and concerns of the town, but that would be my only recommendation.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Chair, did you want to discuss each?
We can.
We go here, both of them.
Yeah, there's the 3 options here, but, we probably, if we're gonna move forward with this subcommittee, has come to an agreement on which option would probably be best for an action item, for the next meeting to vote on this, to move it forward. I personally, like the first, option. You know, there's a little bit more representation there. And maybe we could tweak it a little bit, based on the chief's, recommendation. But I think, you know, there's a good set of representation there from everybody. And again, like I stated, you know, enforcement can put forward somebody that is technologically savvy, that is, you know, there's some deputies or commanders out there that really get into this stuff and you know, again, it's probably not me, but I like the representation of number one person. Does anybody else have a preference?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, in line with Director Lujan's comments and Chief Jimenez's comments, I think tweaking option one so that there's a technological representative, IT specific from the town of Edgewood would make a lot of sense. And that could increase that membership by one, or you could decrease the RECC board membership by one, depending upon, you know, the size of the committee that's desired. But I do think having a hardcore, so to speak, IT representative from the town of Edgewood would be appropriate. That would be my reaction to the options presented.
Mr. Chair.
Chief?
I agree with you guys. I think that'll be beneficial to everybody, and then that'll allow for one board membership, you know, or one board member to step back. So to speak. I nominate Chief Choi.
To step back. No, that's.
Okay, so, and I agree, I personally agree that we could step back one RECC board member and add, IT from Edgewood. Is there any other discussion, or does anybody have any other concerns or recommendations? No, does everybody feel comfortable with option one, and we can move that forward, for the next meeting? And Director?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is an action item
Okay.
today, so the
Oh,
board
okay.
can take action to approve these things at the subcommittee today.
Mr. Chair.
And I think in terms of option one, the other piece that the board may want to discuss the frequency of those, so that the motion would have, you know, approval of option one with the amendment that an IT person from Edgewood and will meet as frequently as.
The only concern I have, I can't dedicate an IT person from the city manager Randall can. But as long as doesn't see an issue with having to pull a city IT person for it, then I think it works for me.
Manager Randall, this is Chair Pendosa. Are you you're on the meeting, concerned with the participation of City of Santa Fe IT staff representative on this committee?
Well, I certainly support that. I just think I'll have to reach out to IT and make sure that they have someone available. But yes, I think we can do that.
Okay. So with all the recommendations, you know, I think what we're leaning towards is option one, addition of IT Edgewood's representative, removal of one RECC board member to just one RECC board member representation. And is there discussion in reference to the frequency of the meetings? As proposed, it's every 2 months. Does anybody have any other recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I think similar to the structure of our board meetings, every 2 months as needed. If they need to cancel, they can. If they need to have an additional meeting, but having that regularity of every 2 months would be beneficial to support Director Lujan's team.
I agree.
Anybody else have any concerns about the bi-monthly meetings? Okay, with this being an action item, is there any other further discussion in reference to this technology subcommittee? So I will entertain a motion to move forward with option one, adding an IT representative from Edgewood, removing one RECC member, and the frequency of the meetings being every 2 months as needed.
I'll second that. Is that a
I
motion?
need a motion now.
Okay.
I'm just
I'll make that motion.
reiterating that. what we're moving on.
Whatever you said, I'm gonna shut up.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? With none opposed, option one, with those amendments is approved to move forward. Is there any other subcommittees?
Yes. So the second subcommittee that we discussed in the previous meeting was the protocol procedure subcommittee. And again, they would be a group of staff that would identify gaps and inconsistencies by regularly assessing current protocols to pinpoint areas where improvements can be made, create new protocols for emerging situations to address identify gaps, ensure that protocols are regularly updated to reflect changes in technology, best practices, and legal requirements, standardize procedures by establishing consistent procedures across different functions and operational areas, verify that protocols align with local, state, and federal regulations. Policy and procedure development is part two on the key responsibilities. Create clear and concise policies related to protocol development, review, and implementation. Establish procedures by outlining specific steps and guidelines for protocol development, maintenance, and updates. Ensure consistency with harmonizing policies and procedures with overall RECC's goals and objectives. Review and update policies regularly and update policies to reflect changes in regulations, technology, and best practices. As we know, RECC's standard operating procedures have not been updated in several years. I've been working on them, but I think it'd be best to do this as a committee. So the options for the committees, step one or option one is select a qualified contractor to oversee the revision, review, and creation of SOPs and SOGs. And then conduct stakeholder meetings, have the contractor conduct stakeholder meetings and interviews to identify the specific needs and expectations of RECC and each response agency. Develop and refine protocols based on the identified needs. Identify and recommend protocol software or additional materials to enhance operational efficiency. Benefits to having a contractor with option one would be an accelerated timeline, an expert-led process. Some things to consider with that would be, obviously, it would require board approval and funding. May involve additional costs for contractual services. Timeline would be unknown until we select a contractor and determine how long that would take. Option two would be a committee composed of myself, Deputy Director Gonzalez, a city representative, a fire representative, an Edgewood representative, the RECC training coordinator, and an RECC board member. Benefits to this would be the process of developing and implementing protocols, which can be a valuable learning opportunity for committee members. This knowledge transfer can improve the overall city, town, and county's capacity. While it may take longer to complete an internal committee can be more cost effective than hiring a contractor. Considerations relies on the availability and commitment of committee members and may be subject to scheduling conflicts and competing priorities. And timeline for that, I estimated between 18 to 24 months. And again, just to verbalize a third option, thinking of a combination of option one and two, where we could have a contractor who would do the core or the heavy lifting, but the subcommittee would work to guide the work of the contractor and be involved in every step of the process and making sure that we're getting done, making sure that what needs to get done gets done. And the option would include the best of both option one and two. So that's my suggestion for the third option.
Okay, thanks for the presentation. I guess we can open that up for discussion in reference to option one. Let's talk about option one. Is there any concerns or recommendations or appetite for option one? I'll open it up to the board members.
Mr. Chair. So would it be possible to allow Director Lujan to maybe get a quote first, before we make a decision to see what the cost would be regarding the SOPs for both options? So that way, we can kind of weigh it out a little bit better for us anyway. That would be my recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I would echo that as well. I think I like the verbalization of a third option of potentially doing that combination. I think having a good solid base of SOPs and policies to work on is beneficial. One question that I have for Director Lujan is, what does your revision process look like? Are your policies to be reviewed on an annual basis? For example, fire department, our policies, best practice is to have them reviewed and updated on an annual basis. Is there that standard for dispatch center?
Yeah, Kalia standard and New Mexico counties standard is annual review of policies.
So with that, I think if we had a better, Mr. Chair, if we had an idea of how much it would cost to potentially have a contractor come in, create those to streamline it and to expedite that work, but then also create some sort of committee to be able to support that work, guide that work, and then also facilitate annual review and recommendations of those policies.
Thank you, Chief. Banjo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I think, support for, option 3 or option 1, I agree. I envision that then would be direction to Director Lujan that, he has enough support to invest the time to get that quote so that it can be factored into our upcoming budget cycle, which sadly is just around the corner. And then we could make sure that it's money we want to spend. I would just say that, in my experience and, both, in different parts of the county, but also including public safety, while the subcommittee, I think, is invaluable to make sure that there's, both staff and policymaker buy-in. I've just seen without the addition of added resources, it can be hard to get to. In terms of updating policies and procedures. And again, I've seen that not only with Santa Fe County, but in other places as well. So I do think, unless it's an astronomical cost, there's a lot of value to having that added resource to make sure that things are we're getting caught up. So that's all I would say.
I appreciate the comments. My feeling is that I agree. I think we move forward, we give the authority to the director to move forward to get the quote. I think they'll give us a better idea of that, if that's the route we want to go. And whether the board will support spending the extra money to get that done. I guess one of my questions is Director, I appreciate the idea of the subcommittees. And I'm not saying, having you identified, there doesn't have to be a problem, right? Where we could be proactive and avoid any problems with protocols and procedures. But like in my mind, what prompted an idea? Is there, what's your vision, I guess? Is there an issue that was identified? Are we having trouble keeping up with policies and protocol? What prompted the whole idea?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the standard operating procedures for RECC are about 16 years old. They haven't been updated. They're not aligned with current technologies that we use. They're not aligned with the current procedures for the law enforcement agencies as far as SWAT situations or securing a channel dedicated to situations like that. There's no procedures on that at all. We're just verbalizing that procedure to our staff, which isn't good. We need it in writing. We can't hold them accountable without that in writing. The medical EMD dispatch should have its own policy and procedure. And I went through the previous board meetings in 2015. Director Ken Martinez presented a procedure. It was approved by the board, but it does not exist. It's not signed by the board. It was approved and it's gone. So we just need to get everything aligned and bring up to date.
Thank you. That's it. I appreciate you answering that question, which prompts my next comment. Would it be more beneficial to have a contractor come in and do an initial assessment of everything, and then set up a subcommittee to basically monitor it or move it forward as needed? Because to me, we might not exactly know where we're at. That's kind of an idea that I'm just talking about. But do we need just to find out where we stand first and then how we move forward maintaining that process? Just all.
Were you gonna say something? Rick?
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I think that we would want the contractor to definitely review what we have in place currently and then go from there. But yeah. it's just what I was gonna say.
And so to me, to me, in my mind, it's a one-time come in and assessment cost versus having a contractor maintaining this on a bi-monthly basis, right? For us. Does that make sense, or am I not understanding how that process might work?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that you're correct. The way I would envision a contractor, attacking this scenario would be to do that assessment, make recommendations about gaps and updates, work with the subcommittee to make sure that what they're proposing fits with all of the end users as well as with RECC. And then, do the drafting so that with the support of the subcommittee so they can be adopted by the board as required by the JPA. In terms of the ongoing maintenance, once we do that heavy lift to get from 16 years to current, then I believe, hopefully we should be able to keep current from that perspective. But I think, I don't disagree with your approach. I'm just saying, I think it fits, within what Director Lujan was recommending in terms of how we would use the contractor. But I think you're thinking about it the same way I would, if that makes sense.
Great, so with that being said, I'm hoping if I'm misspeaking, but I think the route that we're going is to give the director the authority to get the quote for the contractual work, and then we can move again and put this on the next board meeting to take action on accepting that or moving with a different option for that specific subcommittee. Is that correct?
Right, yeah.
Everybody feel right?
Mr. Chair, if I may just add
Yes.
one more thing. So what I'm thinking now that we're looking at the subcommittee breakdowns, my recommendation would probably be to be careful not to add a board member in every subcommittee, because I think that would kind of take away from the subcommittee's purpose, right? Because they're supposed to vet these things before they come before the boards. So I think that would not only probably put a lot on the board members' plate, but maybe take away from the purpose of the subcommittees. So that's just my recommendation.
I appreciate that, and I think once we get the quote and we decide on which way we're going, then we can figure out what the structure of the subcommittee actually is, and we'll take that
Yeah.
recommendation into
Thank you, Mr.
consideration. I'm sure the board will. So I will entertain a motion to give the director the authority to seek a quote for the proposed contractual work for this subcommittee.
I'll make motions.
Have a second?
I'll second that motion. And just for the board's awareness, Mr. Chair, member Moya had to step away. So we included in the notes. Oh, look. It was 9:35.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second for the direction for the director. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? With none opposed, that motion does pass. Is there another subcommittee?
No.
All right. Moving on to number 6, matters from Director Lujan. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Director.
Thank you. So we'll go over the public safety reports for the September, October, and November. Total telephone calls handled September 2024, 29,685. Total telephone calls received via 911, 7,331. Telephone calls received via 988, 2. Santa Fe County calls for service, 5,352. City of Santa Fe calls for service 9,053. Town of Edgewood calls for service 526. And at that point, RECC had 12 vacancies. And I'm pleased to report here, the bottom, the 911 call answering time. In previous months, you had seen it was in the 80th percentile for 0 to 15 seconds. We are now at 91%, which is above the National Emergency Number Association and NFPA standards. So we met that in September. Moving on to October, total telephone calls handled 24,063. Total telephone calls received via 911, 5,790. Had an increase in calls received via 988 at 7. Santa Fe County calls for service, 7,045. City of Santa Fe calls for service, 9,052. And Town of Edgewood calls for service is an increase there at 613. And again, we did meet the call answering time of 91%. So we're over 90% again for the month of October. And we are at 12 vacancies in October. For November, total telephone calls handled, 28,370. Total calls received via 911, 6,757. Again, an increase in 98 calls there with 10. Santa Fe County calls for service, 6,652. City of Santa Fe calls for service, 8,195. Town of Edgewood calls for service, 456. And we are at 94% for the month of November, which is really good. And speaking of the 98 calls, I wanted to let you all know that we did create an PSA with Daniel Fresquez. I'll be emailing to all of you to share, or tagging you in social. Jennifer can tag the departments in the social medias so that we can have your department share that. It's about when to call 911 and when to call 911. So it just got finished yesterday, and I'll email it to you all also. So you can share that across the board. As far as additional staffing information, we did have a team leader resign on December 6th was his last day. Greg Archuleta Lynch resigned, and we did post, so we do have the team leader position posted. We also have all the other positions posted as well for emergency communication specialists, and we can share those with you as well, so you can put those on your social media. So my understanding is that we have over 20 applicants already for various positions, including the team leader. So things are looking good for us as well in that aspect.
Great, thank you, Director, for the information. Is there any questions, concerns, or comments in reference to the data provided? Chief?
I just want to thank the director and his staff for doing such a great job, Director. Thank you and your staff for continuously being professional and doing a great job. I know you guys are struggling with the vacancies, but.
Yeah, you know, the vacancies are lower than they have been in a couple of years, but it's the hardest part is having brand new staff and helping them not only to develop as employees, but also mature as adults as well. And that's been one of the hardest things that we've done. You know, they're all in their late teens, early 20s, and it's a big difference coming from school to this kind of profession. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, good job. Please reiterate that to the staff.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just say again, anything that we can do to get the word out to help drive down that vacancy even lower. I've always felt that, you know, for the right person and someone who is interested in a career in public safety, but might not be old enough for law enforcement or potentially ready to move into the fire service, this is a great opportunity. And when you think about long-term resiliency and redundancy, to have trained dispatchers in law enforcement, in the fire service, just, you know, allows us to better withstand potential dips. It allows potential light duty options in the event that someone is hurt in the line of duty. There are just any number of benefits to you know, having that capability spread throughout, you know, the organization. And so again, I just encourage everyone to push this out as far and as wide as we can. And for someone who's looking for a career change or is looking, you know, to start their career in public service in some way, it's a great opportunity to be able to, you know, add value to the community. I think for the basic position, the only requirement is that you have a high school diploma. And so again, it's a great opportunity. And I think we can all do a good job of selling that to members of the community. Thank you.
Any other comments, concerns in reference to the data on item A? We'll move on to item B, discussion of onboard process for incoming RECC board members.
Thank you. Yeah, I've just been thinking about, a question for the board is what would be the best route to go to onboard a new board member when we do have a new board member? What would we like to see as far as like a sit along with dispatch? One-on-one director meeting? I just want to get that out there. I'm still working on developing some materials for the current board members just on dispatch and also scheduling the sit-alongs with you all when you have time. But as far as onboarding new board members, I'd just like some opinions on what you all would like to see.
Thank you, Manager. Anybody have any concerns, comments, ideas?
Mr. Chair, I think that would be a good idea to maybe sit down one-on-one with yourself and maybe even the chair or the vice chair, whoever's available, just to kind of bring them up to speed with maybe some critical things that are going on at that time. You know I kind of got thrown into it when I got here, but maybe just kind of briefly give them a quick brief on things that have happened the past couple of years and where we're going. I think it'll be too extensive, but I think maybe a meeting with you would be a good idea.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Director Lujan, I think some ideas like Chief Jimenez says, one-on-one, a couple one-on-ones to get an overview would be very beneficial, along with a designated time to do a sit-along to see and understand what fire console goes through, understand what PD console goes through, and how just the basic workings of what your staff works through. And I think that will allow us to be able to provide much more support to you, especially for new board members coming in.
Thank you.
Any other comments or ideas for the director? Boarding new members? Manager?
I think, just a technology 101, of course would be useful, just so everybody understands the flow of the calls, through dispatch, and then, how that is pushed out, into the field. How, law enforcement and fire are, notified of calls pending, what happens if you elevate those if they're not being responded to, just those sorts of issues so that, you have a 30,000-foot view of how the center actually, operates. As someone who's not in public safety, I think that would have been invaluable, and would be valuable to any member who's joining the board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other recommendations? Comments? You have any other questions? Directors, I give you some ideas.
Yes,
How to
definitely.
move forward.
Yes, thank you.
Great. We'll move on to item C, Santa Fe RECC personnel updates.
Yeah, thank you. And I did skip ahead. That's where I was supposed to mention that Greg Lynch did resign. The DPAP position posted. So that's pretty much the update that I already provided. Thank you.
Any questions in reference to personnel updates
Do
from the board members?
Chair, I'm sorry. Do we know if Mr. Lynch, is he still in the RECC realm or?
He went to the labs.
Oh, okay. Nothing you can do about that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions. I don't see any other questions in reference to matters from Director Lujan. We'll move on to number 7. Matters from the board. Item 8, discussion of vendor presentations. Chief Jimenez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this came up when I was talking to Director Lujan and he did get a guidance from Jonas. But there is a couple of companies that have come and done some presentations for us recently was Peregrine. Peregrine is a database that incorporates all of the surrounding areas for investigations. They are actually right now teaming with the state of New Mexico to enable other agencies within the state to access their company and their database for free. It's gonna be, I believe, like a state contract for the state of New Mexico. But I thought it would be hugely beneficial for agencies. I don't know if the city or the county has it right now, but even fire and EMS, they have the capability to work with all of the other agencies statewide, gather the data, and then they can break it down to alleviate or assist an investigation that would normally take 2-3 weeks of manpower and get all of that done probably within an hour, maybe even 30 minutes. They can do org charts and crime org charts. It's amazing. But I thought it would be very beneficial for us to take advantage of, or at least see a presentation from them and see what the board's recommendation would be. But Jonas and director thought it would be good to put that out there and allow you all to vote on those presentations. And then the other one was Globe Life, but he said that they could also do that in public comment as long as it was brief enough. Peregrine, I think, will probably take a little bit longer, 15-20 minutes.
Thank you, Chief.
Sure.
Is there any discussion in reference to this? I just wanted to, the reason that I think that this is on the agenda is there was I just want to be as clear as possible. There was a request for some vendor presentations to be put on the agenda by the chief.
Sure.
And it was my concern in reference to allowing that personally as the chair to allowing that to happen. I'll be honest with you, I've sat on several other boards and it's very rare. It has never happened that we actually have vendors presenting to the board on the agenda. Doesn't mean that's not the wishes of this board, but I wanted to have a discussion on how we move forward. Because in my opinion, if we allow one vendor to come and do a presentation, maybe we're opening that up or requiring other vendors to being able to do that.
Sure.
And B, is it appropriate and is it a productive and efficient use of the board's time for vendors to present? That's the discussion I wanted to have, and that if the board decides that that's how they want to move forward, when we do have somebody that we want to hear from, that's fine. But I personally felt like it needed to be discussed before we move forward with those decisions about putting vendors and presentations on the board meetings. So I just wanted to be as transparent as possible in reference to how this discussion came. Does anybody have any feelings about that?
Well, Mr. Chair, I think that brings up a good point. Looks like Mr. Randall has to leave as well. He's going to the same thing Chief Moyer, that affects the quorum or not, but
Okay.
I don't know how this company directly relates to our RECC. And if our role is we're here to inform and work with RECC specifically. I've heard Peregrine, I don't know how it relates to RECC matters. And so I don't know if we're using if this is a kind of an extension, we're going out of our lane necessarily to have these other conversations. I think it would be different if Director Lujan had a company that he's looking into that was going to directly benefit and work for RECC. And then we have a vested interest because it's an RECC matter, then I could see that being a thing. But I think my understanding, the basically slippery slope argument is what I got from what you were saying. I think that's a appropriate concern.
And Mr. Chairman, I would, go back to earlier business and say, one of the points of the technological subcommittee was to evaluate technology relative to, our RECC operations, also consider, requests by user agencies to integrate what have you. And so I think in the first instance, if they were exploring technologies, that's the purpose of the subcommittee, and they can make a recommendation to the board. We pursue this technology, and then you would go through a procurement process. And I think that would address some of the concerns that, may have been underlying what you were saying, Mr. Chair, which is, is there a perception by having vendors present to the board that they have a leg up in any ultimate procurement that you might pursue? But I think, the subcommittee was really designed to try and be forward-looking in terms of technological enhancements that we may want to look at. And I also agree with Chief Joy's comment, is that it should be focused on, again, the RECC operations as opposed to law enforcement operations.
Other comments?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, thank you for your time and thank you for the input. One of the things I didn't state on there is Peregrine also integrates from CAD softwares. I know we were talking about updating. At some point, one solution is gonna be at the end of life, right? So that's one thing that they do, is integrate from CAD software to another CAD software and integrate the systems seamlessly. So that was the big push for this. And if there's any other entities out there that come our way that had offered to do that, I'd be more than happy to give that to Director Lujan. And if Director Lujan wants to go that route on his own, that's fine too. I just wanted to offer it to the other agencies because it's free. It's not gonna be anybody paying anything, but we're getting ready to integrate our new software or CAD software. You guys are doing the same thing with Axon. So at some point, they're gonna have to have a company come in and reintegrate and transfer that information, so.
And I don't disagree with you, Chief, in reference to the information, information is invaluable, and when you get a better understanding, you make better informed decisions. I just don't know if it's proper for the actual board meeting, and I agree with the manager, this is my opinion, my perspective, that maybe these presentations by these folks that provide services is better suited for the subcommittees. And then they make the recommendation, and if we're gonna move forward with a certain recommendation from the subcommittees, then maybe it would be proper, especially based on the cost and the complexity of the service or the contract, that maybe they would come to the board once a decision's been made to move forward with them.
Sure.
To get a better understanding, but I just don't, I kind of want to just say, this is just my personal perspective. I don't think it's proper for vendors to be just presenting to the board and in general.
Yeah.
Unless a decision has been made to the board. That's just me.
I'm happy to,
Yeah.
if you want to do it now that we're getting subcommittees.
Yeah.
I'm happy to that's fine. I know in previous, we had the public schools come and
Yeah,
do their rave thing or whatever that was. This is all uncharted territory, so.
so this isn't an action item. I know it's just a discussion. But I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So does everybody feel comfortable that, we would maybe refer vendors or people that they think would be good technology to the director or the subcommittee, and then he can interact with them as he sees fit, perhaps not necessarily board. Yes. All right, does anybody have any other questions, comments in reference to that?
Sure, thank you.
Executive session, item number 8. Limited to personnel matters. Do I need to make a statement?
Yes, read the agenda item, Mr. Chair, and then ask for a motion to go into executive session.
Okay. We'll act on item 8, going into executive session limited to personnel matters as allowed by section 10-15-1H2 NMSA 1978 and reference to performance evaluation of the RECC director. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session.
I will second motion. A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Mr. Chair, for executive session motions, we need a roll call.
Okay. Well, I'll, with a motion and a second, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Okay, manager, Chief Jimenez,
Yes.
Chief Joy,
Yes.
Chief Black,
Yes.
Manager Schaefer,
Yes.
Sheriff Mendoza.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
That, with the motion being approved, we'll now move into executive session.
Mr. Chair, would it make sense that we discuss as a board and then we can, ask everyone to be excused and then we can have Director Lujan come in and go over the evaluation? Sure.
Off the rest of the agreement.